5.
Curry hits a three.
4.
Houston with a drive. Deep left field.
3.
Patrick hit by Watt. Sack number 10.
2.
Messi with a record-breaking goal.
1.
Welcome to BSS Sports. Now, here are your hosts, Steve, and Trevor.
Good afternoon and welcome to another edition of BSS Sports. My name is Steve Schill with the ever-lovely Trevor to the Struthers. And I mean, if we're looking back to last year, the year that Kevin Durant decided to leave OKC for the Golden State Warriors, and you did not know many people's future, including Dwight Howard, amongst other players. This year, boy, the show just gets better and better. I think the NBA can safely take home the title of the greatest sport for off-season purposes. Kyrie Irving leaving Cleveland, potentially. Not sure where this is going to go. Not sure what they're going to get in return. But, Trevor, the question is, do you think Cleveland is going to get a good return on Kyrie Irving? Or do you think it's just going to end up being draft picks? Because what team is going to want to give up what they have for just one player?
Well, that's the thing, right? Like, if you're moving Kyrie Irving to a team, I mean, I'm not sure of his age, but if you're moving Kyrie Irving to a team, you're doing it because you want to win now, right? So you don't exactly, Cleveland's trying to win now. Obviously, that goes without saying. They have LeBron James, and who knows for how much longer they do. And so they're trying to win as much as they can now, and Kyrie Irving is obviously a guy that helps to do that. But, I mean, they're going to want pieces back that can win. And they're not necessarily going to get that. How do you capitalize on that return for a Kyrie Irving? Now, I don't know what this plays in the whole situation, because the funny thing is Kyrie Irving doesn't have a no-trade clause, but he did just so happen to submit a list to Cleveland as to who he prefers. Teams like New York, Miami, San Antonio, and Minnesota. San Antonio obviously is a no-brainer, right? Because they're almost the cream of the crop in the U.S., apart from obviously Golden State. Then you have the Miami Heat, who, I mean, that's maybe an interesting one because Miami hasn't been very good over the last couple of years. And, I mean, Chris Bosh now officially retired, so he's obviously out of that picture moving forward. New York is a bit of a train wreck, so why New York's on the list is beyond me, apart from playing in MSG in Madison, in New York City, right? Like, that's the only appealing thing there. But Minnesota is the team on the list that you probably wouldn't have seen a couple of years ago if the same situation arose,
that's greasy.
Right?
That's greasy. I like that.
And if he went to Minnesota too, boy, would that be would that be something? But and I mean, obviously, like I said, he doesn't have a no trade clause, so it's not like these are the only places he can go. But obviously, this is where he prefers to go. Chances are a trade, though, with these teams, like if you trade him to like Minnesota, if you trade him to New York, who do you give up? Like, it's going to be draft picks, maybe a young prospect if you're lucky. I really don't see Cleveland getting much back in return if they are able to trade him. They can't really maximize his value in a situation like this.
Okay, so you mentioned two things in there. One, the Minnesota. Apparently, Andrew Wiggins is looking at a deal that could be upwards of $148 million. So obviously, I was given the wrong genes because I'm not tall enough, and I picked the wrong sport while growing up. And then, second of all, you mentioned that Kyrie Irving might be going to New York, or at least suggests that you want to. And now we're hearing reports out of New York that Carmelo Anthony is willing to decline $8.1 million in bonuses if a trade between the Rockets and the Knicks happens to get him out of there to Rocket City. But, would Carmelo potentially stay if Kyrie went to New York? Or do you think he just wants out of New York, period? With Carmelo, is it winning? Or is it, just being where the money is?
I could definitely see him really wanting to just get out of New York, because I feel like that's a rabid fan base that's looking at nobody else but the star, like a Carmelo Anthony, for the failures that they've had. But definitely if they got a Kyrie Irving, it would definitely be more appetizing to stay there. But the fact that what you just said about Carmelo Anthony, about him wanting to potentially give up money to go to a team like Houston, obviously Houston's a fantastic team. But that just tells you what kind of train wreck's going on in New York right now. That's what makes it as shocking as it is that New York's on that list. With that being said as well, with Kyrie Irving as well, I mean, this is a guy, he's under contract too for the next 3 years, so it's nothing too long term. What's even worse about it, there's a player option for Kyrie after the second year.
Ooh, man, this NBA offseason is just getting better and better.
Very
All right,
juicy.
So, juicy, you got her. Now, switching over to golf. Whether you're right-handed, left-handed, or in between, ambidextrous, one thing that everybody loves is watching golf to hear the nice, quiet whispers of the announcers. Jordan Spieth taking home the 146th British Open. Trevor, he's sponsored by Under Armour. Is Under Armour even in golf? I didn't know that was a thing.
It makes his way around golf. It's in every sport. Come on, Steve.
Hey, look, I see Under Armour and I think of some of the other major sports. Now, for
You
yourself,
don't watch golf, that's why.
Exactly. You are a major golf fan, and Jordan Spieth was having a bit of a time during this. How did things wrap up?
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously he got off to a pretty solid start on the whole week just in general, but things almost came to a full crash when he started melting down in the fourth round earlier yesterday. And yeah, he lost the lead for the first time since he had taken it. But I mean, what do great players do? They rally back. He took the lead and he was able to win his first Open Championship. It's his third major. The guy's 23 years old. I mean, that's not something to like buck an eye at. I mean, we have guys on the PGA Tour that are lucky. Sergio Garcia just earlier this year, winning the Masters. This is a guy that struggled immensely when it comes to winning majors, whereas we have Jordan Spieth, 23 years old. It's not necessarily Tiger Woods level, but he has 3 major victories under his belt. And the funny thing about the 3 major victories, they're all different majors. They're the Masters, they're the U.S. Open, and now the Open Championship / British Open. The only one missing from that is the one coming up later this year in the PGA Championship.
All right, now, so switching from hitting the ground to hitting in the air, the Blue Jays. Oh, geez, Murphy, the Blue Jays. Okay. I don't know what's, I guess, more shocking. The fact that we're doing so terribly this year, and when I mean I mean the Blue Jays, or the fact that Jose Bautista is getting leadoff batting positions frequently. Why is he leading off after being the home run king for the past couple of years?
Yeah, well, a lot of people would say his talents are diminishing, and it is getting to that point. But this is a guy that over the last few years, what is the one thing that he's done consistently, obviously besides the home run part, and that's get on base. And that's what the Blue Jays need, especially now. Now they're 10 games under 500. You're really trying to, obviously you could say, throw it out the door, start selling, but that's not what the guys in the clubhouse are necessarily thinking, because the guys in the clubhouse are what they have to work with. That's the only mindset that they can go off of. So you're still obviously trying to find ways to have success. And what's a way to do that? You put a guy that over the last few years has no doubt probably been your best, stats-wise, probably been your best on-base percentage guy. So he is most likely to get on base. And a lot of that too has to do with the walking. And a lot of that over the last couple of years has had to do with the fact that Edwin Encarnacion's hit behind him for sure. It's less likely, or it's more likely actually that he get pitches to hit in that case. But this is a guy that has a great eye for the plate and is able to walk. And a lot of people like Pilar up at the top of the lineup for his speed, among other things, and Pilar as well. He got off to a fantastic start this season when it came to his play at the plate. But the thing that's negative about Pilar is this guy never walks either, too. So that's something that you have to put in consideration. Really, when it comes to your ideal leadoff guy, first off, you want it to be a good hitter because he's getting up to plate more or as much as anybody else in your lineup. And second off, you want it to be a guy that can get on base. And that's why Jose Bautista is up in that spot, because that's a guy over the last few years that has been able to do exactly that.
But you go from Ben Revere to Jose Bautista. When we're talking speed, there's not, if you go across the league, I'm pretty sure 95% of the teams are picking someone who is genuinely fast. Would you put Jose Bautista in any sort of fast category?
But he doesn't need to be fast. That's the point I'm trying to make. That's obviously
sure.
Your prototypical leadoff guy is a fast guy. But you just compared Ben Revere to Jose Bautista with Jose Bautista and the negative light. Who was the better hitter? Let me ask you that.
All right, Jose Bautista, but the point...
So who's the guy that you want at the plate the most?
Well, for the Jays, they have to hit the home runs or nothing's going to happen, because, even if you get a hit, he's not going to really round and round, so that didn't even make any sense.
This year you're right.
The point being is, I don't know. I just don't really maybe in the 2 spot, but I'm just not seeing him in the first with the the leadoff. I guess put the fear of God into everybody with Jose Bautista at the plate.
All right, let me ask you this then: with the lineup they have to work with, who's your leadoff hitter?
Okay, we're gonna move on.
Don't mean
from
to put
that.
you on the spot.
You know what? No, that's a valid point. I mean, I really don't know. I'm pretty sure like Josh Donaldson or Troy Tulowitzki were kind of in the 2-3 spot a bit last year with Jose, and they were trying to experiment. And, I guess you're right. For the lineup that they have, it is kind of hard to work with. I think in general, the team just needs to hit, and they need to make a trade. But we'll...
Yeah, and that's something they haven't done either, is been able to hit. And they did make a trade. Are we getting to the Refschneider deal?
That's how you say it. I didn't know how to say it. So I guess the big question for this trade between the New York Yankees and the Toronto Blue Jays was that Rob Refschneider, second baseman, was acquired from the Yankees, of course, for a first baseman in the name of Ryan McBroom. Now, I don't see why in the world this would benefit either teams, because we're supposed to hate each other. We're not supposed to work together. This is not Boston and New York and their weird Johnny Damon, Jacob Ellsbury outfield love tangent things that continue every decade. Why are the Blue Jays trading with the Yankees?
Come on, we're over a year out now from Ottawa and Toronto trading in the NHL. I mean, this is something that can happen. But, funny we're having this conversation, too, coming out of the leadoff hitter talk, because if you had this guy performing up to the level that he could be, he would no doubt be your leadoff hitter. That's Devin Travis. The Blue Jays have struggled immensely at second base this year, and Rob Refschneider he is not an everyday second baseman in the major leagues. There's no doubt about that. He's had a very good year in AAA, but that's AAA, not the big leagues, right? There's always a big jump between the two. So now he has a chance maybe to get some big league at bats here and have the chance to try to show that he can perform at the big league level, because Devin Travis hasn't been up to that level. And that's what it comes down to is the Blue Jays right now are looking for a serviceable second baseman that they can rely on in their lineup. And they don't necessarily need second base, center field, shortstop, catcher. Those aren't positions. Those are positions up the middle. I worry about defense before I worry about offense. But when this lineup has struggled as much as they have, you want to try to get as much offense out of everybody as you can, and that's what they're trying to do here at second base.
All right, final things that we're going over today. The UFC. Nah, we're not talking McGregor. Nah, we're not talking Floyd Mayweather, but that's going to be a hell of a fight. We are talking UFC 214. Ladies and gentlemen, Cormier versus Jones, number 2. So, last time they met, UFC 182, back in 2015. Okay, hold on a second. So, they've had about 30 UFCs since 2015. That seems like an excessive amount. Anyway, this one's going to be in Anaheim, California. And I guess we'll talk about the main fight, Daniel Cormier versus John Jones. The big thing here was last time Jones won on a unanimous decision. But, of course, the hit-and-run incident that he was involved in got him suspended indefinitely, all the other good stuff that you'll read online. But it's John Bones Jones. I don't think that guy can be taken down, but do you think Cormier has a chance?
Well, first things first, let's hope this fight happens, because, this time, the week of UFC 200, we thought the fight was for sure going to happen. Then everything went downhill as the week went on. But so far, so good. This fight is happening. And a long time in the making, obviously. It was supposed to be the main event of the big UFC 200. That all fell apart. Now we finally get it. The 1-year suspension's up for Jones. And you're right. John Jones, his one loss in his entire career, his entire professional MMA career, has come from a disqualification. Nobody can beat this guy. And that's the thing that Cormier is going in against. He lost to Jones. A lot of people have not given Cormier the credit he deserves. He is the champion right now of the light heavyweight division in the UFC, but nobody feels that way. A lot of people say he's a paper champion because John Jones, he hasn't beaten John Jones. A lot of people feel John Jones is by far the best light heavyweight, maybe the best fighter in the UFC pound for pound. So he's got that to go up against, and it'll be really interesting from a perspective of Jon Jones. He's had one fight over the last couple of years that was Ovince St. Preux, and he did not look great in that fight either. So this is a guy as well that could potentially battle octagon rust in this fight. And I mean, obviously, a lot of people feel like he could very well be the best pound-for-pound fighter, but can he go out and beat Daniel Cormier? It's also a bit interesting from the styles. Jones likes to stand up and hit you. Cormier, no doubt, will be trying to take this to the ground. It's not as much of a difference as Cormier in his last fight against Anthony Johnson, where Anthony Johnson had that massive knockout power. Jones doesn't have that. But if this fight stays on its feet for too long, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if it's another unanimous decision for Jon Jones. Cormier has to get this to the ground and try to use his wrestling to outmaneuver Jon Jones on the ground and get the win. And if he does, it'll be by far the biggest win for Daniel Cormier in his career. If Jon Jones wins, then we have a new UFC light heavyweight champion, and a lot of people in the UFC would feel like everything's back to the way it should be, assuming Jon Jones is able to behave. That's what it comes down to on Saturday night. I am excited for this fight.
That's it for this edition of BSS Sports. Make sure to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter at BSS Sports. Archiving all of our works on YouTube at BSS Productions. For Trevor, Struthers, and myself, Stephen Schill, we'll catch you next Monday.